Good afternoon. My name is Amy McGuffin. I'm the CEO of Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce, and you have joined us with our on-point discussion with our Mark Cook from Kittitas County Community Development. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Amy, thanks for having us. It's a real pleasure.
So our on-point conversation, Mark, is about Kittitas County's recreation tourism and what the county is working on and what we are to look forward to and all of the stuff in between. So we will be monitoring any questions within the webinar, and so if you do have any questions, please put that into the Q&A section or the chat section. But let's get started, Mark. Recreation tourism in Kittitas County.
Well, as you know, Amy, and for your audience, the Board of County Commissioners updated the Recreation Tourism Plan a couple of years back to prioritize certain actions on the part of the Board of County Commissioners. And to that end, Public Works has been managing a recreation fund. And several years ago, we started promoting projects for capital facility funding. So you're going to see some of those projects today and some projects that are in development. So if you go to the next slide, we'll get started.
I will try. Let's see if I can do this here. Excuse me one second. I'm going to come out and go back to shared and see if it, uh-oh. I thought I had it ready. Let me just see what we got here.
I can see it. There you go. These are essentially the areas where the board has expressed their interest to pursue projects. If you go to the next slide, you'll see where we've indicated what projects we're working currently. So at the top of our list, you'll see a star 1, and then you'll see, if you look in the map, it's a little small, but you'll get an idea of what that area is, as 2, 3, 4, and 5 also indicate. And we'll be speaking about these projects specifically today in detail. Next slide, please. So Steer I-90, and you can see how we came up with Steer I-90 on the left, really is our attempt to deal with the ongoing congestion on the I-90 corridor from Easton to Cle Elum during the summer months. It also addresses some of the winter closures, we believe, that are problematic for the trucking industry. We're currently in a conversation with the Washington State Department of Transportation. They are leading the effort through their formalized process. We anticipate that it's going to take a couple of years to get through this very first piece, which is essentially a preliminary environmental assessment phase. And then when we complete this phase, we hope to pursue other federal funding to take it ultimately to design and finally into construction. We're being supported in this effort by the board's federal lobbyist, the Ferguson Group. Next slide, please. So if you go to Steer I-90, if you just type that into your web browser, it'll take you to our website. The website allows you to post into it. It has a lot of historic information. We have a speaker series every month where we invite particularly impacted people that utilize the corridor to present some concerns they have. We've got the trucking industry, we've had environmental concerns, we've had fire and life safety responders. And again, if you'll click on that site, you'll get an invite, and we certainly welcome anyone with interest to join us in our effort. Next slide.
I would have to say on those speaker series, they've been very informative, for sure.
Thank you. The next piece we have for you is we were one of the first successful federal grants for what is the Safe Streets for All initiative, which came out of the Biden administration's second year. What we have is approximately $400,000 in change to develop a multimodal safety plan for Snoqualmie Pass. Some of you who frequent the pass might understand why that's essential. We have parking problems. We have kids that are sledding on on-ramps in the winter. It really is a matter of time, we think, before we have some very unfortunate safety issues at the pass. So what we've done is we've been working with business owners, homeowner associations, and in fact, we're engaged with King County who's doing a sub-area planning effort right now, as we begin to implement what we think will be a multi-year study to define what safety measures are needed and then prioritize those for future federal funding. And if you go to the next slide, Amy, you'll see where we know we have pedestrian issues. We have now bike conflicts because the pass is being utilized by mountain biking interest now rather than just ski interest. So it's becoming a multi-year destination. And so we're trying to get in front of that in Public Works with this long-range comprehensive safety plan. Next slide, please. Some of you may recognize this barn. This is a very iconic barn here in Kittitas County. It's the Dunford Barn. Several years ago, the barn ownership group came forward to Public Works and asked if the board would have interest in taking over the facility and developing it as a potential tourism destination. The Board of County Commissioners accepted the proposal, and Kittitas County has been working to get the deed formalized in place and the transfer of ownership. We do have a Department of Archaeological and Historic Preservation grant that we're waiting to transfer to, which will put a new roof on the barn. We may even get that done this summer. And even if you'll go to the next slide, you'll see where we are intending to build a new access off Highway 97 that will also create a parking facility with a turnaround. And there are some conversations that are going with the developer to potentially put a wet bathroom at that location so that people who stop would have a place to relieve themselves and be much more comfortable as they peruse the historic barn feature.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. We were approached by the nonprofit group that manages the Thorpe Mill last year with a proposal for the Board of County Commissioners to consider taking over the historic Thorpe Mill as a tourism facility. Early on, Public Works identified the need for a year-round restroom facility. This graphic on the right depicts the work we've done to date. It basically says, hey, let's see if we can get a wet bathroom in the current parking lot facility. Because of some sensitive areas associated with the mill, we're going to have to do a remote location for a wastewater field and a new well to supply water to the restroom. We have put a engineering cost estimate to that, and we are actually briefing the Board of County Commissioners on the 26th at a public works study session to see if the board would like to go forward with this facility, potentially nominating it for a capital facility project in 2024. Next slide, please. We've had numerous conversations with the Grant Public Utility District over the last 5 years about the increasing parking demand at the Vantage boat ramp. You can see those photos there on the left. What we've done as Public Works is we said, hey, look, we have some land that's above the Sheriff's Boat Barn that's associated with Boat Ramp Road. We think we can develop it into potentially 18 more truck and boat parking facilities with maybe a dozen car facilities. And that project is fully funded. We're hoping to break ground on that project this fall. So stay tuned for that one. That could be quite a benefit to the Vantage area if we're able to get this thing. We'll miss the bulk of the season this year, unfortunately, because we were trying to acquire the Washington State Department of Transportation site that you see there on the left of that graphic. And ultimately, they wanted more money to drop back to a much smaller scale improvement. But nonetheless, we think it will be significant. Next slide, please. So that's what we've got going, Ms. McGuffin. We have, of that list, 2 of the projects fully funded, the Vantage boat ramp and the Dunford barn facilities. The Thorpe Mill project could come on to the 2024 capital facility plan, and we're just beginning county budgeting processes now. So we should know in the next couple of months how that goes. Our Steer R90 and Snoqualmie Pass efforts are fully funded. The Snoqualmie Pass project will likely kick off in the August timeframe. We're waiting on our final grant from the Federal Highway Administration. And Steer I-90 is being funded entirely by the Board of County Commissioners through its Public Works Road Fund. So that hopefully gives you some sense of what we're trying to put together both in the short term and in 2024.
Well, I think the topics that you presented in your slide deck are a nice overview. Obviously, we know there's several other things that are tourism related that goes within those projects that the county is addressing. And so I would like to just kind of talk a little bit about some of those things that I know that has been discussions, especially those joint meetings that you've been having with the communities. Reflecting some of the tourism pressure, especially on some of the smaller communities, Roslyn, Ronald, and Cle Elum. Where are we in a perspective of those joint meetings? Is there anything that from a tourism related piece for management of wildlife or management of garbage or use of back roads? Can you kind of enlighten us in some of those conversations?
So we've been having very substantive conversations with the communities of Roslyn, Cle Elum, South Cle Elum, fairly recently, along with the Washington State Department of Transportation, about the growing likelihood of the need for the county to take over ownership of 903. Without the county stepping in, it's unlikely that the DOT will widen the facility. And we certainly understand the recreation demand on that facility, let alone the need for us to begin substantive fire evacuation route planning. We think that that's definitely in the workforce. And we continue to have dialogues with the Forest Service about whether or not we can utilize lodging tax to help manage some of the garbage problems that we see up there on holidays and actually on a lot of weekends now, owing to, garbage cans that aren't bear proofed and the like. So, Amy, I think those are ongoing conversations with the board. We continue to look to see, what restrictions we have on the use of lodging tax. And as you know, we do have a lodging tax grant committee, and we certainly invite anyone who has a desire to fund a tourism or a recreation project to come to that group. Commissioner Lois Chavez hosts that group, and by contacting her, she can get you their schedule and get you in front of that committee. But all of those things, like you say, relative to looking at back roads, and those are all part of what we could be contemplating. We just need people to bring us some projects, and we need to vet them for viability.
I would agree. Yeah. So been in on those conversations, and I just appreciate the openness of the county and Public Works working on the projects. Because first and foremost, we need the feedback, right? I would say we need the feedback so that we know what the priorities are. I look forward to the relationship of the Forest Service. It seems as like there's some good conversation being had there. And so I think we'll be able to provide some solutions in regards to that. Tourism seemed to be kind of the buffer for us during the pandemic, and it seems to be getting busier at all times. And so I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing, these projects that you showed us today, but also just being open for that conversation from the public, from the citizens of Kittitas County. So
no, you bet. And we certainly have seen that pressure. Federal money seems to be everywhere, but federal agencies don't seem to be spending it. We continue to chase the Wenatchee National Forest for a motorized use plan around Liberty, and we'll continue to bang on those doors to help county residents deal with this burdening congestion and recreational use around them. So
yeah,
that's what we're here to try and help with, and we'll keep doing our best.
well, thank you so much. You were quick in your presentation, and that's good because this is what is On Point webinar is all about, is we get right to the juice of everything. And so we just appreciate it, Mark. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to call Mark at the Public Works office, or you had an email earlier in the video, just refer back to that email. Thank you again, Mark, for taking your time today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yes, take care.